Hello, I'm making this video to promote the Melanie Shaw case, to help promote it, and this video has been recently uploaded by Lord Feck, who's a friend on Twitter, absolutely wonderful guy who really is devoted to sharing the issues, and especially has given a lot of support and attention, much needed support and attention, to the issues of child sexual abuse and organised crime against children in Britain. Now, this is the Melanie Shaw Vigil because, yet again, Melanie Shaw, a child sexual abuse survivor who was abused by people in positions of authority, has been imprisoned. And why is she being so blatantly persecuted by the establishment, the very same establishment that has abused her from childhood? And I find it disturbing that this is going on openly, and there's nothing being done. The ordinary members of the public have gathered here on this demo to hold a vigil, to protest about what's happening to her. But where are all the professionals? Where's all the counsellors? Where's all the psychiatrists and psychologists who, you know, earn thousands and thousands of pounds a year? They have very high social status. Where are they? Why are none of them at this vigil? Why aren't they writing to the Home Office and complaining about this? Why aren't they making public statements? Because at the end of the day, people who are suffering, it is a known fact that the majority of people who, as adults, survived severe childhood trauma, whether it be sexual abuse or any other kind of abuse, do suffer from complex PTSD. And so they're more sensitive, they're more vulnerable. And instead of treating those people with compassion and helping those people, instead they're being persecuted, judged and silenced. And you know, this is
the paedophile protectors.
This is
all
the
the apologists. We will tolerate this no more until we get a public inquiry. Justice for
Melanie Shaw!
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 You know, this case has been going on for so long. What's been happening to Melanie Shaw? It's been going on for so long, and I really thought that Melanie was going to get all the help that she needed. Her case was very prominent, public. She'd appeared on UK Column regularly cover her case. I've seen lots of articles and posts shared about on the internet, which I've shared as well, you know. But, you know, to my horror, no, she's back in prison again. And it's like, what is going on? Because people like myself, ordinary members of the public, who's got no letters after our name and no positions of public authority, we can write till we're blue in the face to the Home Office, Ministry of Justice, our MPs, and believe you me, I have, and I do. But they take no notice of us. We're just nobodies. Oh. But, you know, when you get, like, the head of ex-university child psychology department writing and asking questions, then they start listening. When you get the mainstream media focusing and asking questions, and then that encourages more of the public to get involved. Because, you know, thank goodness that these people are here. But really, this car park should have been full. And, you know, that is the problem. The issue is being suppressed and it's being buried. And, you know, a lot of it is to do with this so-called positive thinking stuff. And, you know, this is from a friend, another Twitter friend, who's written these excellent blogs and shares excellent blogs. And this one is a complex PTSD forum. And here we have a Zen master explains why positive thinking is terrible advice because it is dishonest and irrational. And this is the original link for it. I'll leave the links. The philosophy of positive thinking means being untruthful. It means being dishonest. It means seeing a certain thing and yet denying what you have seen. It means deceiving yourself and others. Positive thinking is the only bullshit philosophy that America has contributed to human thought. Nothing else. Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, and the Christian priest Vincent Peale, all these people have filled the whole American mind with this absolutely absurd idea of positive philosophy, and it appeals particularly to mediocre minds. The negative is as much a part of life as the positive. They balance each other. You ask me, am I against positive philosophy? Yes, because I am also against negative philosophy. I have to be against both, because both choose only half the fact, and both try to ignore the other half. And remember, a half-truth is far more dangerous than a whole lie, because the whole lie will be discovered by you sooner or later. How long can it remain undiscovered by you? A lie, of course, is a lie. It is just a place made of playing cards, a little breeze, and the whole palace disappears. But the half-truth is dangerous. You may never discover it. You may continue to think it is the whole truth. So the real problem is not the whole lie. The real problem is the half-truth pretending to be the whole truth. And that is what these people are doing. You know, and then this is another blog. I've come to understand just how dangerous positive only thinking is. I first came across it at the age of 13 when we'd fled from our highly abusive so-called father, and I was being asked to rebuild a relationship with him and to forgive him. Okay? And I've been judged, you know, and that's what happens. You know, again, that is exactly what is happening to Melanie Shaw, is that the victim survivors get judged. And I've just tried to explain to a friend recently who took offence because I was offended by his reactions to me expressing severe pain that I've been enduring through the re-triggering of my complex PTSD. And you know, I've sent him this link, which again has been provided from this site, which I'm really appreciative for, to explain what is going on. Please don't judge me mad. for being under severe emotional pain when I'm dealing with people who have attacked me for no reason other than what? Their own judgments, insecurities, because I'm not engaged in positively ignoring unpleasant issues that make people feel uncomfortable. So they'd rather try and find some fault with me, eliminate me by, you know, dumping negativity on me, even lying about me, and maliciously acting against me, you know, in very, very covert ways. And that's one of the horrible things I've discovered about this society, is that people can really give you a battering and not leave a mark on you. You know, you can feel like you've been stabbed in the heart, but there's no knife. But, you know, you are left for days, recovering, weeks, months sometimes. And that's when you realise the damage that people are doing, and that you just got no protection from it, as people just don't understand, and it really hurts. So the only way is really, you know, to help people to understand, and you know, that's what this forum is all about, because we do need to understand, because there's a lot of people in our society who have suffered severe trauma and abuse as children, who are suffering from some form of PTSD. And as I said, I've explained to this friend, you know, if you was hearing somebody screaming in agony after they'd been hit by a drunk driver again, who would blame the victim? Who would judge that person for being upset? But that is what happens to PTSD, complex PTSD, or, you know, PTSD survivors who have to deal with it. Because PTSD is not a mental illness. PTSD is a sane response to non-empathic, abusive people. That's what PTSD is. So people with PTSD are in touch with their emotions, they're in touch with their feelings. The problem with complex PTSD is that sometimes certain things can, you know, people can re-trigger very, very deeply distressing experiences and emotions. And so, you know, people need to learn to respect people with complex PTSD rather than judge them mentally ill. Okay, as one person said, you know, well, I'm sorry, I'm not very good at dealing with your mental illness. You know, when I'm trying to politely explain rather than judge people mentally ill, then really people need to start understanding that you need to respond to people who are survivors of childhood trauma, who suffer from complex PTSD, with the same level of respect and consideration you'd give to somebody who was physically disabled. Like, for example, you might put a ramp up your steps. You wouldn't expect them to go to, you know, to go out and play football with you and then judge them as mentally ill because they can't get out of the wheelchair and kick the football about. And, you know, this is why it is extremely distressing.
Perhaps royals are better seen, not heard.
It is extremely distressing to witness, you know, what Melanie Shaw is going through. I've gone and lost the link now. That she's being put in prison when she's suffering from PTSD. She's suffering from complex PTSD. And she's being, she is suffering re-abuse. More harsh treatment is not going to heal those wounds. What Melanie Shaw needs is kindness and gentleness. That's what she needs. So where are all these counsellors? All these psychiatrists and psychologists? Where are they? Why aren't they speaking out? Why is Melanie Shaw being persecuted? Because the thing is, you know, we need to accept that there are many people in our society who are suffering, you know, severe complex PTSD, who have suffered severe trauma and abuse as children or even as adults. And we all need to start treating each other with respect, empathy, understanding. We need to stop the judgments. You know, and as this person says, I've come to understand just how dangerous positive thinking is. It's very much a society drive to only have positive thinking. It's very new age, very unhealthy and dangerous. I've always had an uneasy feeling about this drive to only have positive thinking. It's been a red flag to me. Now I understand why. When you have only positive thinking and refuse to see the negative issues in people, situations, it becomes potentially dangerous, because there are many people with dangerous, unhealthy motivations and thinking. To avoid the red flags and cues for unhealthy people is to enable the negative, which promotes more toxic and unhealthy behaviours, and that's how people get harmed, get abused, get treated badly. It may be an ego trip for many, or an avoidance issue, or a coping strategy to only focus on the positives in people, but it isn't healthy, or dealing with truth or reality. I see how this abuse occurs. It's why it occurs all too often in families, in churches, in workplaces, anywhere. People avoid, ignore, justify negative stroke unhealthy issues in people. And that simply enables and encourages them. And to validate their own issues, they demand others are judgmental. Judgment has become the cop-out excuse for anything said that doesn't fit with unhealthy people's thinking. Not all negative views about people is judgment. It can be discernment if it comes from someone with the capacity to detect, see issues in people. And you know, this is a very, very valid point. It's a very, very valid point, and it is something. It is a point that I've recently been making myself among my circles of friends, because people take offence sometimes when you try to explain to them something, because people don't like being informed, basically, that they're wrong. And so if, you know, somebody just casually judged me recently, and so I explained that I don't take kindly to that judgment, that I'm mad because I'm deeply upset and hurt about really horrible things that people have done to me, and people have told lies about me. And why? Because, you know, I make them uncomfortable because I face reality, and they're all, you know, I'm disturbing their positive thinking. So they then attack me. Because you see, I've made them feel wrong somehow. So, you know, the best thing to do is to attack, because that's how we live, isn't it? It's dog eat dog. Defend, attack, defend, attack. Whereas I wasn't trying to defend, I was simply trying to help somebody to think right. Because that's to their advantage. It's to my advantage, but it's to their advantage as well. And, you know, for somebody to say something to somebody that, you know, then means that they're going to realise that then they have to or need to accept that, oh, actually, yeah, I was thinking wrong about that. Actually, I was wrong. I'm wrong. Isn't. So then you can judge them and stamp on them and say, yeah, see, you're wrong. You deserve a punch in the face now. No, the whole point is to help that person to get right. Because instead of judging the survivors as weak and damaged or mentally ill or mad, okay, it's about time people started learning from them. Because one thing, the positive part of people who survived severe childhood trauma with their conscience and empathy and compassion intact is that we have not got the capacity to put our conscience in the deep freeze. To quote Ronald, the Dutch banker, who I've shared, you know, mentioned him in a couple of my videos recently, and you know, I really do appreciate his understanding. You know, his disclosure, and how, and the allegory that is used of how people who were working in his profession of finance were told they needed to put their conscience in the deep freeze. And that is what this positive thinking is all about. It's about putting the conscience in the deep freeze. And then people get alarmed because the people with complex PTSD, we're not in the deep freeze. No, we're the opposite. Because that's what happens. The further extreme a society goes, the further extreme, you know, the further extreme human compassion and empathy goes into the deep freeze, the further extreme human and compassion and empathy will go well beyond that. And it is when people start getting angry and upset and really distressed that should be a warning signal to the humanity, to society, that, oh my gosh, people are getting really, really upset. Something's wrong. Yes, what is wrong is that our conscience and compassion and empathy and intelligence is in the deep freeze. And our children are at risk. And instead of helping the survivors who are trying to alert us to a problem that needs addressing, because the problem is not going to solve itself, and it will just keep getting worse and worse and worse, and it is already at endemic proportions. It is time for people to stop judging the survivors, stop persecuting them, to give them the respect and the support and kindness that they need. And to understand that ignoring the unpleasant things in life is not positive thinking. It's negative thinking. just as the same way as to only focus on the negative life is also negative thinking. But sometimes we do need to give our undivided attention to a very serious problem. And that is why, you know, I'm constantly promoting these. They've got nothing to do with politics. I'm not saying they can't be improved. But what I'm saying is that they're here, the child protection directives. They will work. They will protect children. Because we need to understand our children are at risk. And we need to take steps to protect the children and prevent crimes against children, so that we can grow up compassionately and empathically without constantly running into people who are in total denial, running into people who casually disrespect, abuse, toy with people. And like I say, in this society, there are people who, much to my dismay, that I've come across who do actually enjoy hurting people psychologically and emotionally. They toy with people. There are sadists. And they do prey on the vulnerable, especially survivors of trauma, people who are suffering PTSD. You know, there's that type of thing going on, and it is deeply disturbing. It's deeply painful, horrible to have to even realise, it. And it can take weeks, months, even years to recover from that kind of covert attack. And these attacks are leaving people damaged. But it is a society with its conscience in the deep freeze that facilitates the sadistic psychology, the psychopathic psychology. A society with its conscience, you know, at body temperature, as it should be, heart temperature. Psychopaths don't pose a risk in such a society. There's more rewards for them for living respectfully, even though they might have low empathy levels. There's more rewards for them living respectfully and lawfully and in a kind way than there is by committing crimes. Whereas in a society with, you know, our empathy and compassion in the deep freeze, then, you know, psychopaths are going to do very well, aren't they? If that's what's needed to do well in banking, who's going to end up with the most money, and who has? And so, you know, I do urge people to support Melanie Shaw. I'm sorry I lost the link there. I've switched it off. You know, Melanie Shaw is a vulnerable adult who has been imprisoned even though the police and prosecutors have been unable to bring any evidence against her in court. She is frightened and suffering in prison, which has a bad name, in a prison which has a bad name for bullying, and she has been remanded there despite no evidence being produced against her. And this is the petition. So we just cannot allow this to continue. This was a previous petition which I signed and I'd shared, you know, but it isn't achieving anything. because she's back in prison again. She's back in prison again. So, you know, and it isn't just Melanie Shaw that's being persecuted. Lots and lots of whistleblowers, people standing up for children, people exposing child abuse. They're being persecuted by the authorities. Some of them are having to flee Britain. And, you know, as I say, we do need to wake up. We need to defrost our consciences. We need to understand the risk, you know, step out of the cognitive dissonance. Understand that the problem is real, it's endemic, it's very, very serious, and we need to address it immediately and implement child protection directives ASAP to protect our children. And as I say, do something. And especially if you're a professional, you know, you are responsible. Okay, because with those titles, you know, those titles are not just a pathway to higher social status and, you know, a higher standard of living in this world. You have with those qualifications comes a responsibility, and a lot of the professionals in Britain, especially counsellors and the Association of Counsellors and the Association of Child Psychologists, you need to speak out. We need to hear you. I'm not saying that as a criticism or to say you're wrong, but up to now you have been wrong by your silence. And so, as I say, stop being wrong. Speak out. Take courage. The public are there, waiting.